Hello and welcome. My name is Amanda and today I have for you a book unhaul. I believe this is the third unhaul I've done of the year, but I'm not entirely sure. So we'll go with that, and if the title of this video is book unhaul number 4, then I miscounted somewhere. But what I have are a couple books I have read, some books I have replaced, some books I have not read. That's where we are. I think for starters, I'm going to start with the books that I have that I wanted to get. So I basically wanted to get my classics in one edition, and I chose the Barnes & Noble paperback classic edition. So I've got a couple of books here that were just swapped out for those. So first book is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Next book, which I have read, Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. I have also read this one. Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, I've read as well. Then Dracula by Bram Stoker, which this one happens to be a Barnes & Noble classic, but it's, I think, like the old version of their paperback classics. Read that as well. Then I have A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, which I have read, and A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, which I have also read. Then I've got David Copperfield by Charles Dickens, which I have not read. I've got The Strange Case of, no, not Strange Case, just Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson, which I did read last year. I also have Emma by Jane Austen, which I haven't read yet. And then The Three Musketeers by Alexander Dumas, which I have not read. So these have all, I've collected pretty much all of these from my local used bookstore over the years, and I've gotten them for great prices, but kind of looking at my shelves, especially with like, I think what mostly set it off was that Pride and Prejudice was separate from all my other Jane Austen books, because the edition I have of Pride and Prejudice is so much shorter, and I like to keep my books like from tallest to shortest. So then I was kind of looking at my classic shelves a little bit more, and I was like, you know what, I kind of really want one edition of classics, because classics are something that I really do enjoy. So I kind of wanted to invest the money there just to have my shelves look a little better. So the next stack of books I have, I'll just tell you if I've read them or not and give a little reason of why I am unhauling them. So first I have two mangas. It's volumes 3 and volume 4 of Vampire Knight by Mitsuru Hino. The only reason I am unhauling these is because my local used bookstore had a sale for Memorial Day, I want to say, and I couldn't remember up to what volume I had already purchased, and I didn't have it updated on my Goodreads, so I just bought them because I think it was like buy two get one free. So I already owned volumes 3 and 4, so these are just going to go back to my local used bookstore. I also have The Paris Wife by Paula McLean. This is another book that I've seen quite a surge in this for marketing recently. I've noticed it's a new cover that's been printed, so I'm not sure what's going on there. But I picked this up from that same local used bookstore a couple years ago, and this is one I've been meaning to read, just never gotten around to. So I finally did. I listened to it on audiobook, and this is basically based around, it's a fictionalized story of Ernest Hemingway and his first wife, was it Hadley, and just kind of them falling in love in their marriage and the like. I didn't really enjoy this book all that much. It kind of makes me not like Ernest Hemingway very much as a man, and just not a book that, now that I know the story, I want to reread, even though the cover is really pretty. But there is that. Next I have Adrift, which is the story written by Tammy Oldham Ashcraft about a job she and her fiance took to sail a luxury yacht from Tahiti to San Diego, and getting caught up in a hurricane and it taking her fiance overboard, and her basically having to work through the emotional and physical struggle of losing a loved one, not having working basically anything on the boat, her being in a lot of pain because she was tossed around quite a bit from the boat capsizing, and basically just learning how to survive and get herself through this emotionally difficult period and physically difficult period to make it to land and to survive. I really enjoyed reading this book. I actually read it in August during the NEWTs, but I think if I revisit this story, it's not going to be in book format. It'll be in the form of the movie, which is this is the movie tie-in cover, which stars Shailene Woodley and Sam Claflin. I can never remember where all the L's go in his name, but it's a great story, and I'm really glad that I read it, but I would like to watch the movie instead of reread this. The next book I have is The Sixpence House, or just Sixpence House, by Paul Collins. I picked this up a couple years ago because there was a Pop Sugar reading challenge to read a memoir, and I found this at my local used bookstore, and yep, it talked about Wales, and I like Wales, the country, and I was like, all right, that's, you know, cool setting, I'll read it. And I've just never had any interest in reading it, so I'm getting rid of it, going back to the used bookstore I bought it from. The next book I have is Meadowtown by Kristen Simmons. This is a dystopian novel that's set in a world like ours. Basically, you've got the Hamptons, which are a very wealthy family that basically run the town. And you've got the lower class of the town that has to run the factories that the Hamptons own. It's set during a time where people have to taste test the food and make sure there's no side effects from it, because everything is basically genetically modified now, and it can lead to pretty severe health issues if you, I know it's specifically with corn, but I don't remember what they called it. So this book follows the perspective of three young kids living in this town. One is Lana and Lena, and she is a Hampton. You also have Colin and Ty, and their paths all cross. Colin and Ty are best friends, and Lena kind of comes into play and learns that things aren't as perfect or as great as on the outside of her household as she may be led to believe. So it was all right, but overall not like a super great story, and it's not one that I plan to reread at any point, so that's why it's leaving. Next I have Boys of Summer by Jessica Brody. This also follows the perspective of three friends. You've got Grayson, Mike, and Ian, I believe are their names. And I basically only liked Mike. And it's the last summer before these guys either go into their senior year of high school or go into their first years of college. And they're all kind of dealing with their own little, not little to them, but they've all got something going on in their lives that they're not sharing with each other, so they just kind of keep them bottled up, and they're trying to make it seem like everything's fine, but like each of them knows that it's not, but none of them want to talk about it. So you've got drama and other things that go on in it. It was an alright book, but like I said, I only liked one of the characters in this, so it's not like a good enough book for me to want to pick up again. And then the next three books I have, and they're the last three books, are books that I have not read before. I'll start with this one. This is Home to Pleasant Pastures. It's a Pastor John and Wendy novel by Greg Chandler, who is Skylar's uncle. And Christian fiction isn't really a genre that I enjoy reading, and I've had this on my shelf. When did he publish it? 2017. So I've had it on my shelf since then, and I just really don't have any desire to pick this up. Sky's grandma bought me a copy of this because it is her brother, and I am really happy that he is pursuing his retirement writing, and that it's something he enjoys. But hopefully when I donate this, someone will find more enjoyment out of it than I will. And the last two books I have are from Whimsify, a book subscription box that I was subscribed to a couple years ago, and then realized that I really don't like subscription boxes because for me they're kind of a waste of money. I don't like the knickknacks, and I typically am not that interested in new releases. So the first one I have is Ash Princess by Laura Sebastian, and this one is about a girl whose country was invaded, and her mom was murdered before her eyes, and then she's basically made to be like kind of like a slave to the new king, and just shown like what happens when you rebel, those sorts of things. And I think she has magic that lies dormant until she really needs it, and all that stuff. I just wasn't very intriguing to me. I need to put the book plate in though, so that way it doesn't get lost. But hopefully some local kid will find that and enjoy it. And the last book I have is Furyborn by Claire Legrand. This book just never really appealed to me. You've got assassins, you've got elemental magic, which I kind of am okay with, but then you've got like a dual timeline. So one story, the stories are basically 1,000 years apart, and I really don't like that. So I know Kingsbane just came out, I think this year, and I hope someone will really enjoy picking up this copy, especially since it's got a book plate in it. There's a dear reader letter in it as well. So I'm hoping that this will be a good find for somebody at my local used bookstore. But that is everything I have for this unhaul, just kind of clearing off the shelves, getting rid of books I'm not interested in anymore, books I don't want to reread, and the like. So I would love to know if you've read any of these books, what your thoughts were on them, if maybe I should give some of them a try. I can probably find them through my library via audiobook or Scribd or something like that, which I think would be a more enjoyable format for me anyway. But I would love to know your thoughts on these books down in the comments below. And oh goodness, we've got a puppy visiting us for the outro. Come on. All right, so that is everything from us today. I hope you enjoyed, and I will chat with you down in the comments until my next video. Bye!